to become fully permitted with a mining license, with all of our construction permits, with all of our operating permits, that puts us in a really unique position. We're one of less than a handful of investable uranium companies with large-scale projects that are capable of greenfields development in the coming years that are fully permitted.
Hi and welcome to the Assay TV. We are here at 1-to-1 Mining Investment Cape Town, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Brandon Munro, Chief Executive Officer of Bannerman Energy. Thanks so much for joining us, Brandon.
Lovely to talk, Alice.
Great, so maybe to get us going, you could start by giving a brief overview of the company and its key projects.
We're focused on the Etango Uranium Project. Bannerman Energy is listed on the Australian Stock Exchange and the OTCQX market in the US. Etango is a very large, world-class scale uranium project in Namibia, more than 200 million pounds of resource, and we're now shovel-ready, fully permitted, and embarking very soon on construction of a large-scale uranium project that will produce, on average, 3.5 million pounds per annum.
And you mentioned your flagship project, and I believe you had your mining license granted in December 2023. So how's that progressing since then?
Well, that was a seminal moment, a real pivotal moment for our company. In the uranium sector, permitting and environmental permitting can be an enormously complex, lengthy, and resource-intensive activity. You see, it's uranium. In many jurisdictions, it has political complications, social complications, environmental sensitivities. So to become fully permitted with a mining license, with all of our construction permits, with all of our operating permits, that puts us in a really unique position. We're one of less than a handful of investable uranium companies with large-scale projects that are capable of greenfields development in the coming years that are fully permitted. So for us, it's absolutely huge. It really sets us up perfectly as 2024 starts to unravel as the year that the uranium bull market really kicks in after a decade of very tough times. So we're super excited. Our investors are excited, the market's excited about uranium, and we couldn't possibly be better positioned with the timing of that mining license to have us construction ready and ready to take advantage of the market dynamics that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. So you feel confident that the kind of bullish sentiment around uranium is gonna continue for the throughout the year and ahead?
I am. For a lot of investors, they try and compare what we're seeing now, $100 plus uranium spot price, just over $100 a pound. They try and compare it to, say, 2006, 2007, when there was a spike. For me, that's not the right analog. I think the better analog is in the 1970s, when for several years, the uranium price in today's numbers persisted at well over $200 a pound. And the industry was very healthy at that time. The reason I think that's a better analog is that demand was driven by the oil crisis. Now it's not an oil crisis per se, but it's still an energy crisis where there's a fundamental change in the way that nations and large corporates are looking at their energy mix. Today, of course, it's driven predominantly by decarbonisation, but also energy security after the Ukraine war has turned on its head dependence on pipeline gas from Russia and other elements. Nuclear power, much like in the 70s when it was recognised as being a superior form of energy independence from Middle Eastern oil, today it's being recognised almost universally in the industrial world as superior for its carbon-free electricity production attributes, its energy security, and also baseload 24/7 power is being recognised as essential in the mix with intermittent renewable energies. So I think we can confidently look to the 1970s as an analogue and say, whilst $100 a pound is a very healthy position for the uranium market to be moving into now, there's still good times to come. And in terms of duration, uranium sector runs on a much longer cadence or a longer cycle length than most other commodities, copper, nickel, for example. And the reason of that is because the only thing you can use uranium for is a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
They're built for decades. They're purchasing cycles are long-term contracts that run about a decade or more at a time. And as much as we spent 10 years in a devastating bear market since 2011 and the Fukushima accident, I would expect that cycle length to be replicated on the upswing. So I think a 10-year bull market cycle is a very reasonable expectation. And we're only about 3 years into that. So it's certainly a good time to head, in my opinion, and all of the indicators in the uranium sector support that viewpoint.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're very well positioned to take advantage of that. Obviously, one of the factors that you've just mentioned feeding into that is the energy transition and decarbonisation. I know Bannerman very much prides itself on your ESG credentials, and you have a very strong sustainability framework in place. So could you talk us through the kind of the key elements of that?
Well, we do, and it's something that we're enormously proud of, and it's an element of our business and our strategy that we've invested heavily in ever since we started in country more than 15 years ago. Some of the examples of our flagship projects is our early learner assistance program, and in the 13 or 14 years that that's been operating, we've assisted more than 3,500 children stay at school in Namibia. Tremendous impact all over the country, not just in our immediate host community, but far and wide throughout Namibia. We've just launched another flagship education program supporting a group called Mondesa Youth Opportunities. It's a capacity building exercise. Over more than 10 years, they've really proven the value of a program that takes kids with high potential from government schools and then feeds them a lunch, provides enrichment opportunities during the afternoon, including math lessons, English lessons, music, health education, which doesn't really get taught very well in government schools, enrichment in other forms as well. So we're now a co-sponsor with Rotary International to ensure that that whole program continues, and we'll expand our involvement with their alumni as well. We do a raft of work in the tourism sector. We've got a very unique partnership with the Namibian tourism industry that has extended over more than a decade. And it's an important part of our business. You can't run a uranium business unless you are really at the top of your game when it comes to community engagement, governmental engagement, environmental standards, and all of those things that we've been doing for years, which now conveniently get the acronym ESG.
Yes. Yeah, great. I mean, it's great to hear you're doing so much within Namibia. And how do you find operating there as a jurisdiction? How is it kind of impacting your operations?
So in general, it's a great place to operate for any commodity. I've had a fabulous time in Namibia. I moved there in 2009 and lived there until 2015, when sadly I was repatriated back to Australia. And so it's always great coming back to Namibia, but it's an excellent operating environment. It's safe, it's secure, it has a strong mining code, it's got an unquestionable rule of law. The government loses court cases regularly, so it is a genuine rule of law where you, as an investor coming in, you can feel that your rights are protected. But in uranium, you can add another layer to that. And it goes back to what we discussed before, that uranium has a complexity when it comes to political, social, environmental resistance in many parts of the world that slows projects down, that in my hometown in Western Australia actually stops projects because it's against the law to mine uranium there. So in Namibia, apart from it being a vitally important part of Namibia's economic growth and development program, it's got widespread social and community support. You walk around the town of Swakopmund, which is the mining town near us, and half of the infrastructure was built by Rio Tinto in the 40 or 45 years that they operated the Rossing uranium mine. People encourage us to be there, and that is something special in uranium that really makes Namibia, I think, the premier development destination in the world. And because of those factors, Namibia is the third largest producer of uranium in the world. So Namibia, as a small country with only 2.5 million people, is on the world stage when it comes to uranium, and plays a very, very important role in meeting the supply requirements for nuclear power around the world.
Amazing. That sounds great. And how well financed is the company looking into 2024?
So from an equity finance, we're very strong. We finished the calendar year with 35 million Australian dollars in the bank. That enables us to do everything in front of us. It gives us plenty of runway. The major next step forward is to finance the full construction of the project. That's got a capital cost of a little over 300 million US. We've started some of the early work, so with that big cash balance and a low spend, we're able to do things like start the temporary construction water pipeline, start building the access road to site. We'll be moving into detailed design shortly. That's all geared at ensuring that we've got a strong walking start on construction when we're ready to push the button on the big ticket items, crushers and site works and earthworks and so on. We'll need to get that financed, and we're working on a number of different options at the moment. In conjunction with that, we're just finding the market is ripening sufficiently for us to be interested in long-term contracting. And that's our real opportunity to lock in the value of the current uranium price dynamic, including our anticipated appreciation over coming months, to be able to lock that in the form of floor prices into our contracts, which generates long-term sustainability for the mine and, of course, returns for our shareholders.
Great. Well, it sounds like lots of things coming down the line. In the shorter term, in the next few months, any key milestones that investors should be keeping an eye out for?
Well, there's a lot happening in the sector. So because we're in such a unique position, being a greenfields development project that's construction ready, many investors follow us as very direct leveraged exposure to the sector itself. Plenty going on in the sector, so that's one to watch for both uranium investors and generalist investors who are interested in the resources sector. From our perspective, well, it's rolling on the key preparatory steps towards construction. We've got a very strong view on the uranium market at the moment. It's a well-informed view. It's a credible view based on a number of forecasts that we've made over recent years. And we will time the development to best optimize the evolving pricing dynamics in uranium. Our shareholders have backed us for more than 15 years working in Namibia on this project, and our shareholders are happy to be a patient for a little bit longer if it means that we're optimally timing the market tension and the evolving sellers market in uranium to lock in contracts at the right time on the right terms and conditions.
Yeah, well, amazing, Brandon. It sounds like a really exciting time for the company and for uranium, and we really look forward to hearing some more from you in the next few months.
Thanks, Alice.
Thanks for joining us.